You know, I feel the discussion of what your favorite Mario game is has been coming up a lot recently. I have no idea why. I thought I was one of the few people who have ever played a Mario game, but nevertheless, everyone seems to have a different favorite, whether it's 64, Galaxy, World, Galaxy 2, or Bros 3 if you're above the age of 40. In my opinion though, what your favorite Mario is and what the best Mario is are two different questions. If you sat me down and had me write a college essay about it, I'd probably have the easiest time making an argument that Mario 75 and Galaxy 2 do the most right, while doing the least wrong. Though, if you ask me what my favorite Mario game is, the answer will always be Super Mario Sunshine. This is probably the Mario that people have the single most decisive opinions on. It's the definition of a love it or hate it game. For every person I meet who goes, "I love Sunshine," I meet another that goes, "Please stop talking to me." But even those who like the game think it's absolute lunacy to say it's my favorite Mario, so I'm going to attempt to explain and justify that lunacy. The version I'm going to be playing is the 3D All-Stars version, because it's HD and looks nicer and is in widescreen. Yeah, I bought it after making a whole ass rant about it. Yell at me on Twitter. Now, there's so much I have to say about the game itself that I might as well start with the era it came out in, the GameCube era, back when times were simple and Bush was president. The thing about the GameCube is that while it was certainly the least innovative Nintendo has ever been with their hardware, it was the most outgoing Nintendo's ever been with their games. They spent their days with the 64 taking their biggest franchises and turning them 3D, but now that appeal was dwindling and it was clear that Nintendo was already becoming bored with that gimmick. They truly wanted to try new things with their games, and I'd go as far as to say each of their biggest franchises to appear on the system were the most unique of their respective series. They took Metroid and turned it into a first-person shooter. They took Zelda and not only gave the art style a complete makeover, but also had you explore the world on a boat rather than on a horse. They took Kirby and made a Battle Royale game before the concept of a Battle Royale game was even a thing. They took Star Fox and f***ed it up. Not to mention all their original IPs during the era like Chibi Robo, Pikmin, Animal Crossing, Luigi's Mansion, all the weird spin-offs such as WarioWare, Donkey Konga, DDR Mario, Mario Strikers. The point is, Nintendo was just trying new things during this era and they weren't afraid to get weird, and Sunshine perfectly reflects that. Probably the most glaring thing that sets it apart from any other mainstay Mario game to this day is the fact that there's almost a real story, and it has pre-rendered cutscenes. They're awful. To put it simply, Miyamoto decided that the Mushroom Kingdom was getting boring, so Mario, Peach, Toadsworth, and like 5 Toads decide to go to the luxurious Isle Delfino. It's animated nicely and it's certainly got a budget, but the voice acting, the fact that Mario goes to prison, and the fact that a baby dinosaur is convinced that his mother is a human, it all feels so wrong. But I absolutely love it. I'm not gonna lie, I find the cutscenes to have that same kind of appeal as those infamous CDI Nintendo games. They're ridiculously quotable while keeping this hilariously unnatural feeling. Who could forget such famous lines as,
"What's this icky paint-like goop?"
Of course, the classic,
To refill tank, press the R button.
or if you're playing 3D All-Stars,
Press the button.
But as I mentioned previously, this game takes place on the sun-drenched tropical paradise of Isle Delfino, thus making it the first main entry in the series to take place outside of the Mushroom Kingdom. Now, I've always been a fan of the bright and creative world that the Mushroom Kingdom is, but stepping outside of those boundaries allows for so much more potential in terms of both character design and scenery. Galaxy also did the same thing, having the game take place in space, and if you like space, then it's definitely space. Odyssey is the most recent in the series to take the approach, and the variety gained from having Mario travel to different parts of the world, each with their own inhabitants, it was really a brilliant idea, and Sunshine is just that, but focused solely on one specific ecosystem. And the Isle of Delfino is by far my favorite environment Mario's ever been put in, both for the tropical feeling and also simply for how unique it feels. Usually when playing a video game, you're put into video gamey worlds, some kind of grassland, some kind of dark area, some kind of stereotype, you know, some kind of place where the theming all comes secondary to the actual platforming and goals you do in said place. Sunshine instead takes locations that theoretically wouldn't work well in a platforming game without being heavily modified to work in a platforming game, and keeps them as natural as can be. I can actually see every location in the game as not only something that people could reasonably reside in, but I myself would love to vacation to. Take for example Serena Beach. You got the beach itself with chairs sitting close by, you have the concession stand further up the walkway, and then in the hotel itself you have the place where you check in, the fruit booth on the opposite end, a staple of any good hotel, and of course each of the floors containing the hotel rooms. What makes it feel so unique compared to if any other game had a hotel level is the realistic scope and design, the extra attention to detail, and of course the fact that it's not traversed through magical floating platforms, but through stairs. Put that in contrast to Mario 86's Lethal Lava Land. That's a video game level, but this is just a nice hotel. This type of design remains mostly consistent throughout most of the game's levels and really separates it from just about any other platformer. Pianta Village actually feels like a village, Pina Park actually feels like a park, Gelato Beach actually feels like a beach, Noki Bay actually feels like a joke, but that's besides the point. They maintain an incredible sense of charm and appeal that the same kind of locations would in real life. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I find the aesthetic of the game's worlds to make it incredibly pleasant and relaxing to come back to. So if you want that feeling of a good old summer vacation, you don't need to spend a ridiculous amount of money on a flight to Hawaii, you just need to spend $60 on eBay. But these locations would just be a hollow shell if not for the residents and creatures that populate said location. And something about this game's character design screams 2002 CRT to me. If you don't know what I mean by that, I don't either. To put it in actual words, they look like the drawings of a man trying to recover from his obsession with the Y2K aesthetic. The enemies all have a sleek, colorful design that would look out of place in any other Mario game, but feel perfectly at home in Sunshine's world. Even the returning Mario enemies have seen drastic overhauls to the point that you don't even associate them with the enemy type they belong to. Hell, even the game's graphic design fits the same aesthetic, whether it be the game's life bar, the dialogue boxes, the shine selection screen, even the game's logo. It all has that Mario vibe to it, but it has a specific style that it tries to stick to. I know it may be weird to say that this life bar and this duck both follow a similar design philosophy, but I'm sure decades from now they will be taught alongside each other in graphic design courses. However, nothing in life comes close to the perfection of character design that is the Pianta. They're the main residents of Isle Delfino, and there's something just so goofy yet so welcoming about them. You can find them everywhere over the island, and for the most part they all have their own unique dialogue, giving the game a lot of flavor text. But what I think is most amazing about them is just how distinct they are from one another. It's really masterful design as they're complex enough that you can distinguish them by clothes, color, or gender, unlike Toads where really all they do is color them differently, but not too complex to the point where their distinct features become mixed in and forgettable. If you see a Pianta with sunglasses in Delfino Plaza, you'll know it's the same one when you see him over in Bianco Hills. It's really amazing how natural and real they feel to the game's world. A large part of that is also thanks to how, as I mentioned, they don't just stick to one place. Rather than being X NPC and Y location, they'll move around to different spots and say different things as you play through the game. Like, these two guys are always next to each other, but sometimes you'll find them under this tent, while later you'll find them at the shore. It just makes the whole experience that much more immersive, all thanks to these big, bumbly, big nose things. There's also a secondary type of species that resides on the isle, and those are the Noki. But unlike the Pianta, they're stupid and I hate them. But you know what they say, it's not a video game unless there's a game in the video. I am going to talk about the controls now. When playing a platformer, or any game really, control of your character is one of the most important aspects, and Sunshine is bar none my all-time favorite game in terms of movement. To say you have complete control would be wrong. You have the perfect amount of control. Mario's speed goes from 0 to 100 really quick, but to make sure you don't overstep, he stops on a But as I was saying, Mario reaches full speed almost immediately after you press on that stick, and as soon as you let go, he just stops. Additionally, you don't have to deal with turning or anything like that. The direction you point the stick is where Mario will go. Normally, having this much control over your character's ground movement would lead to controlling them feeling fake, empty, cheap, gross, substandard, low grade, meretricious. But something about Mario's almost cubical shape, his running animation, his weight, and the walking sound effect that coincides with every single step just makes running around feel really good. I'd even go as far as to say it actually feels like you're controlling an Italian plumber equipped with a water pump, and that's something I can only also say about Glover. And that's without even getting into Mario's moveset, which is by far the most freeform it's ever been to this very day. One thing that's remained consistent among every Mario game is that there's a specific way to pull off certain moves with really no alternatives. You gotta dash in one direction, then dash back to perform a backflip. You gotta do 3 jumps in succession to get the triple jump. You gotta spin your stick into some kind of spinning mode to do a spin jump. Sunshine isn't like that at all. If you want to do a move, you can just do it no matter the amount of space you're given. The triple jump and spin jump are moves that still work as you expect, but now also go hand in hand with each other. You can perform a spin jump just by buffering a spin before jumping, or you can buffer a spin before you touch the ground and then instantly get a spin jump upon jumping, but the spin jump will always be able to string into a triple jump, so upon landing with a spin jump you can instantly triple jump, but you can also start spinning in midair, so you can do a short hop while buffering a spin and get an instant triple jump without having to do the 2 previous jumps or needing a wide range of space to pull it off. You just have so many options, and each type of jump has its advantages and disadvantages. There's no definitive answer, it just depends on how you want to move around. Finally, of course, there's the gimmick of Mario's moveset, the gimmick of the game, the gimmick of GameCube-era Nintendo. Flood. The game is mostly designed around him. There's the standard nozzle, the hover nozzle, the rocket nozzle, and the horizontal rocket nozzle. The standard nozzle is the default you're equipped with at all times, and with it you shoot water. I don't really have much to say about it besides it's fun to use and serves to break up the platforming pretty well. The hover nozzle is what drastically changes the game's platforming, giving you a small period of time to suspend yourself in midair while also giving yourself a tiny bit of extra height. It's mainly used to cross large gaps or to recover after a missed jump, and this has become a bit of a standard in Mario platformers, whether it's that little extra spin in Galaxy or Cappy in Odyssey. What I think separates Flood from the others though and makes the hover feel really good to use is the fact that there's real physics and precision to it. You really just have to do the same thing every time to make sure you land back on your feet with the other 2 options, but making the proper movements with Flood is crucial in making sure that you get where you want to go, making it feel really satisfying when you get the most out of him. Not to mention, while the long jump is entirely absent, Mario's dive was given absurdly more use. While you can still use it out of a jump to get a bit more speed and height, you can now use it to speed across the ground with a quick click of the hover nozzle and an instant press of the B button, or you can just use the standard nozzle if you're like bad. But the point is, if you have a long distance of flat ground you have to cross, you don't have to just walk, you can get to the other end instantly. Though the rocket and turbo nozzle I'm not the biggest fan of because they limit your movement so drastically. They really serve no other purpose than allowing you to access certain shines and blue coins that were blocked off arbitrarily to give these nozzles a reason to exist. Worst of all is when equipped you're no longer able to use the hover nozzle, which gives you one of your best tools and is really hard to get used to. Luckily, since these nozzles are used so arbitrarily, you'll rarely have them equipped, but they're still just simply something I think the game could have gone without. But overall, the movement in this game remains uncontested in my eyes, and makes just running and jumping around this world wondrously fun, which is good because what the game has you doing with said movement is sometimes really bad. There's some missions that I will always look forward to, such as the Manta Ray fight, the races with Pantissimo, just about any level in Payanta Village, and of course any of the secret stages, but outside of the really good ones it becomes evident that the game had a rushed development. You fight the same blooper 3 times throughout the game, and there are mission types that get repeated frequently, which I don't think are that bad because the game is still fun to play and other Mario games have this fault too, but there are some undeniably awful shine sprites in this game. Most infamous are the Chucksters, the Sandbird, the Second Coming of Satan. They get pretty bad. Though the thing is, as awful, clunky, bad, and more than anything, awful these segments are, there's usually infinitely respawning 1-ups placed directly in your path or right outside the entrance, making it unlikely you'll see a game over from any of these. I think what ended up making them so bad is the fact that they don't function on the same rules as the rest of the game, instead trying to make you adhere to some one-time gimmick that, at best, functions, and at worst, is the pachinko machine. But, given the opportunity to remove these missions from the game, I wouldn't. Sure, they may stilt your progress for a bit and you may even utter a "this game sucks," but like a hilariously bad movie, you're going to remember these parts more fondly than you may think, as you joke about how they could have ever made it past playtesting. What makes me love these as opposed to other bad parts of other good games is that I don't dread coming back to them. When a bad part of a game is just unceremoniously boring, repetitious, and/or drawn out, that's when the game has a real problem. But if the bad part is funny in how bad it is, then it becomes a real part of the game's personality. Additionally, once you get used to them, they're not really all that difficult. I saw many people talking about how these segments weren't as hard as they remembered, which only goes to show that they aren't the detriment to the game that people remember them being. At the very least, without going for 100% completion, missions like the Instant Death Lily Pad, the Pachinko Machine, and the Watermelon Festival are all fully optional, which ironically leads me to one of the biggest issues I actually do have with the game, and that's the progression system. Something the game does really well is actually the sense of progression. Like any Mario Collectathon, your goal is to collect one main collectible, this time time being shine sprites. The shine sprites are what kept Isle Delfino so sunny all the time, so of course as you grab more and more, you physically see the sunlight slowly enlarge over Isle Delfino. Additionally, instead of having your reward for progression be as simple as you have this power unlocked now, or this area is now open to you, locations of the map that were once completely irrelevant now have portals to other worlds and abilities you couldn't use in the plaza beforehand. Coming back to the plaza to see that you finally unlocked Yoshi so you can eat the pineapple and enter Serena Beach, it's good. But they single-handedly ruined this by making the game function not like a collectathon, but rather in a way like any linear platformer. Mario 108, grab a certain amount of stars to progress. Galaxy 1 and 2, grab a certain amount of stars to progress. Odyssey, grab a certain amount of moons to progress. Sunshine requires you to grab certain shines to progress. Every single shine besides the 7th in each level is completely irrelevant, thus making it so you can't pick and choose which missions you actually want to do. I feel that if the progression system didn't function like this, instead having you grab 70 shine sprites to reach the final level, then the game would actually be significantly better. But I find even with the game's supposed linearity, it doesn't stop me from enjoying the game in my own ways, and that's because Super Mario Sunshine is broken. And that's what makes it hype. There are so many alternate methods to completing missions that are far from intentional, and they are so much fun to pull off. But what makes it so these skips don't destroy the game overall is the difficulty of pulling off the trick is coincidentally usually parallel to how much the trick actually skips. Take for example the banana skip in Mission 3 of Serena Beach. All it does is make it so you don't have to grab Yoshi and deal with the attic maze, and it's not too difficult to do. Meanwhile, the infamous coconut skip skips all of Gelato Beach, but it took me a whole 2 hours to pull it off for the first time. It's actually insane how real some of these alternate methods feel. Like, do you want to do what the game wants you to do and use Yoshi to ride across these platforms, put out this orange soda goop and grab the shine? Or do you want to rocket up here, grab a coconut, perform the rocket storage glitch, fly over to the platform, clip through the cage, and grab the shine? I'm not even a speedrunner, but the tricks are so unbelievably satisfying to nail and really unintentionally add so much more to the game. But don't think I like the game just because it's broken. It's the movement, the incredible atmosphere of Isle Delfino, and all the little unnecessary things that really don't matter at all, but make the experience feel that much more special. Such as the posters and signs plastered all over the plaza, the way that Piantas get mad at you after spraying them, the beatboxing Pianta on the options menu. Oh. He's gone. Though, speaking of unnecessary, there's one last core mechanic of the game that I've been neglecting to mention, and that is the mechanic of the blue coin. Possibly the most infamous part of the game, there's as many as 240 scattered throughout, and because of the game's progression system, they serve absolutely no purpose besides getting a 100% complete save file. The big issue with them does not come from their mere existence, but the fact that many are so cryptically hidden and locked behind certain missions without any clue or hint as to how to possibly find them. The only aid you have in finding them is the fact that there's 30 per world, so if you found 30, you know not to look there anymore. The sad part is that I actually really like the idea and concept. Upon replaying Galaxy, I found it bothersome that there's absolutely zero reason to explore or go out of my way, because the star is the only object I could find that's essential to my progression. Nothing besides 1-ups or star bits is going to stick with me after I grab that star, nor is there anything nearly as important as the star. Blue coins add a real reward to exploring around and checking things that may appear suspicious. It's just that it's done in a way that's very bad. Blue coins are actually the reason that, despite this being my all-time favorite Mario game, I've never 100%ed Sunshine. I simply refused to look up some kind of guide on the internet, and every time I played through the game I found 1 or 2 blue coins that I've never seen before. For my favorite Mario game of all time, I really wanted to complete it naturally. Until I remembered that I own the official Super Mario Sunshine strategy guide, so I'm legally allowed to cheat. So let's start here with Pianta Village. Coin number 1. Shoot the moon. Stand on the yellow mushroom? I like this game? Yeah, I do. Sunshine is a game filled with objectively wonderful things, riddled with objectively horrible things, but on both sides of the spectrum it remains incredibly charming throughout. The speedy, skillful movement and flow of the game make it infinitely replayable to me. Combine that with the game's incredibly relaxing aesthetic and atmosphere that if I could only play one game for the rest of my life, it would probably be Super Mario Sunshine. And finally, after grabbing all the blue coins and redeeming all 240... Wait. Perfect. Finally, after 18 years, I have gotten the postcard. So hopefully you can see why I love Super Mario Sunshine. Maybe you even see the game in a new light, or maybe you still think I am very, very stupid. But nevertheless, thank you for watching, and remember, water is only good for you if you aren't drowning.